This is One Bills Live, presented by Kaleida Health.
All right, hour number 2 here on a Tuesday, and it begins as it has for the previous 13 weeks with ESPN analyst, former NFL quarterback Dan Orlovsky, whose segment is brought to you by Ellicott Hotels. Fans, round up your family, friends, or coworkers for a fantastic game day experience at 500 Pearl. Reserve your pack, book your group event today at 500pearlbuffalo.com. Dan is fresh off the Monday night collapse, a titanic collapse by the Miami Dolphins, much to the delight of every Bills fan in the 8 counties of western New York, who, if they didn't stick with the Titans, woke up, much to their delight, happier than ever on a Tuesday morning, as there is now just 2 games in the win column separating the Dolphins from the Bills. And let's talk about that game first, and then we'll get to the Bills' upcoming matchup with the Cowboys here, Dan. I know you were impressed based on your commentary with Will Levis. He looks like the real deal for that Titans club going forward. They have their new franchise quarterback, in my estimation. I think you feel similarly. In your opinion, do you think, based on the way you saw the Dolphins play that last 4 minutes, that they thought the game was won after that turnover on the pitch play?
Yeah, I think in the context of the game, they thought that, hey, as long as we don't make any mistakes, that they're not good enough to go score twice on us. I really believe that that's how they viewed it. Like if you go back, first of all, Chris, it sounds like you were the leading charge for the joyous feeling.
I was at the front.
Bill.
I was the drum major, man.
Yeah. It was really interesting. I talked about it during the game is, they go up by the 2 scores. And then Will methodically leads them down the field, and his patience showed off. And then Miami got the ball, and my surprise, it wasn't that they went run. It was that they went run without Tyreek on the field. It was if you're gonna go run, put Tyreek on the field, set him in motion. He's gonna pull. He was pulling guys all night towards him, the gravity that he had. So I think that was my surprise. And then the way that, they essentially just let them march right down the field again and never really challenged them. So I think if you're Miami, it is a rough day today to know that you, in many ways, let one slip away or gave one away. And I know that they were dealing with injuries, and that's a very fair kind of point when it comes to what they were dealing with. But that's a loss that's not going to sit well. And no matter how I'm a fan of the Dolphins. I am. I like their coach. I like their players. This happened last year. Is this the repeat of it? You could say what you want. Next week will not be a cakewalk versus the Jets. I just don't believe it's going to be the repeat of Black Friday. And then they got that final 3-game stretch, which is brutal.
There's a lot in this Tennessee-Miami game because there's a couple of things. First, wow, Miami looks really different when Tyreek is not on the field.
Totally different.
He went out. I mean, they look pedestrian offensively. And 2, Tyreek was on the field some, off the field some. This happened. The injury happened early, no question. But 2, this game was 13-13, and you said that Miami kind of feel like they gave one away. Tennessee tried to give it to them twice, and Miami wasn't good enough to make it happen. I mean, Tennessee was toe-to-toe with the Dolphins throughout 3.5 quarters, 3 3/4 quarters. So there's a lot in this about how good Miami is, how good they're going to be, and certainly the collapse. But Tennessee gave them all they wanted even before the 2 turnovers.
Absolutely. And we kind of felt that way. Lewis and I certainly, because we've been around Vrabel long enough, he just makes everything ugly and muddy. And if you catch that one break, 2 fumbles. It was interesting, Steve, because you kind of saw, if anybody's a basketball fan, it was like watching the Lakers without LeBron. Tyreek controls the game in many ways, pre and post snap. I mean, when I have, I'm sitting in the press box and you're watching Tyreek on the field and he starts from one place and goes to the other and the ball's not snapped, the control that he has over the defense is shocking. Everybody moves. And then when the ball gets snapped, everyone's paying attention to him. And so, when he's out of the game, and it's tough, I'm sure, because they run their offense through him, you could see that they were searching for answers. Okay, well, Wait, like if you think of their playbook goes from like the Cheesecake Factory to Five Guys. Just it's endless to like, hey, we got like three options now. And I think that's kind of what happened. If I was Miami today, I think the thing that I'm most disappointed about that is an offensive line that has struggled mightily in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
They got a rookie left tackle and a rookie left guard. Their edges got tore up last week versus Indianapolis. Our edges could not get home. Like if I'm Miami, we couldn't get after their offensive line at all to pressure Will Levis, especially late. And so it's one game. It's not the end of the world for them, but you also have to like treat it with reality of going, hey, maybe we aren't as premier as we thought we were.
All right, so let's move on to Buffalo. Big road win at Kansas City. Certainly wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
Even Josh said, we got a lot of stuff we got to clean up, and he's right. But the way the defense is able to close out that game, granted they get him in long down and distance after the penalty, but it's Von Miller, Ed Oliver, Leonard Floyd on those last three plays to kind of close it out and let the offense kneel it out. Ed has been at the center of this for most of the season, and he has been playing premier football. What kind of impact would you say he has had pretty much all season long for this group up front?
He's been the best player in the defense in a not only like in a way that he's always been in many parts, but like in a needed way because of the injuries. I thought Epinesa played really good as well. Obviously, the interception and his feel, he probably has a tell pre-snap of, if a guy sets. I thought one of the more impressive things for the defense for me was how they got some of those guys on the tackle matchup that they wanted. They got Vaughn one time, but that's where he always is. They had actually Ed outside one time on one of the tackles in a one-on-one pass rush opportunity. And then Williams, the backer, they got him in a pass rush situation in a one-on-one opportunity as well. So I thought it was really smart and really tactical of, hey, we know that Kansas City's offensive tackles are the issue with their football team, and they wanted to attack that. And so Ed was awesome. Ed's been fantastic all year. If he could get a couple of those other guys to come along with them, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and just to dovetail off what you mentioned about Dorian Williams, and because I know you watch film and you're probably aware of this anyway, but for our fans, that was something that they had previously done against the Chiefs in years past, using Milano as the rusher.
Correct.
It was interesting to see them use Dorian Williams in that same way on Sunday.
Yep. Yeah, it was smart. Yeah. It was smart to see that they got those matchups in their favor.
And obviously, this game ends, and there's the huge play with that. It's a brilliant play that Kelsey makes, laddering it to Tony for the touchdown. He does it in practice, and I've told other people, when you do stuff like that in practice, it raises the antenna of your teammates. And I don't think that caught Tony completely off guard. And of course, the play didn't count because of the now infamous offsides call. And we can talk a lot about that. I want to. Forget about that one call for a minute, though, Dan. I want to talk to you about officiating in general. And I've been spouting this theory for a couple of weeks now. We've seen so many officials' calls get thrown into the middle of these wins and losses, the close games.
Sure.
It's my theory and my belief that the league is all about parity. You got teams like the Houston Texans that are you got small teams beating big market teams. You got all these teams, the league, and especially in the AFC. You got 6 teams with the exact same record. The league is really evened out. You've got a huge percentage of the games that are coming down to one-score games. I have thought that, hey, when you get into games like that, both when I played and when you played, these games that we've watched as broadcasters and media people, that's what happens in close games. It comes down to a no call or a ticky-tack call or a call that you should have made or that I should have made that nobody made, a missed call or a non-call.
They're magnified.
Or a call that they're all magnified because of the magnitude of the moment in the game, because there are so many more moments like that now that you have to notice them. And now we're condemning all the officials. And my take is, listen, this is the way it's always been. But because the league is from top to bottom is so tight, it's all magnified. Even though it's the same calls we've been getting for decades, now you got replay. You can look at them again. We can make a big deal. You can reverse some of them that are wrong. In my estimation, the league's it's a symptom of a league that is hyper competitive right now.
Yeah, I think it's a good thought, Steve. I've never really heard anybody kind of explain it that way. I have kind of probably shared the same feeling as you. I've never thought officiating was good. I've never thought officiating was bad. I've always just thought officiating is what it is. Sometimes, to your point, the call goes your way. I was on a team that we played in Dallas in the playoffs. Late in the game, they threw a pass interference flag. They reset the down for an automatic first down. They moved the change. They wound the clock. We were in the huddle. Play stopped, and they waved the flag off, and we had to replay fourth down or go to fourth down. So you've always been a part of that. I do think social media, has certainly heightened it and the awareness of it. To your point, I did a massive tape on NFL Live yesterday about the Kadarius Toney offside stuff. 10 years ago, Steve, I would have never been able to do that because I would have never had access to all 22 within 24 hours of the game getting played, and I certainly wouldn't have had the technology to kind of do something like that. So, yeah, there's just so much more access. I don't think you're all that wrong saying it's always been this poor, and it'll always be a massive conversation because in the call, someone has to go get it to go their way, and someone doesn't. The Super Bowl last year it went the Chiefs' way, and the other night it didn't. I get their side. I do. I get Philadelphia's side in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah. Last one I've got for you, Dan, concerns Bills-Cowboys. This seems like it's very much going to be a game determined in the trenches for the teams on both sides of the ball. What, if anything, has worked with some measure of success in slowing down that Dallas pass rush by other teams this year?
So the Dallas pass rush, I can, obviously I know both of these teams relatively well right now. To slow down the Dallas pass rush, first of all, you have to be fantastic on first down. You can't, this isn't, hey, let's get them to 3rd and 3 game. This, you saw it a little bit last week, even more so early runs with Josh's legs, just to get them to think. I do think, again, this is a game where you got to put Micah Parsons in conflict in many situations. He's the driving force of it. This defensive line wants to create chaos. That's all they want. They just want chaos. If you think of the offensive line as basically like 5 pieces that are connected as one, I don't care. They have to stay on the same levels with each other and as connected as possible. Dallas wants them all to be dispersed. That's all they want. It's just chaos. They don't care if it's a disaster, but if it's chaos, they think one of their guys can get home. And they do a great job of picks and stunts and running into people. And so you're not going to live on 3rd down. Now, Josh's legs on 3rd down could be a huge part. They are every week, but even more so because, once they get all moving around and whatnot, they create some seams. I don't know if this defense is I think this defense is a good unit. I don't think this defense, as long as you don't let it play to its strengths, is a dominant defense. They're going to give you underneath completions. They don't think that you are going to be, and it's not an easy completion like a zone completion. You're just going to have the chance to throw short routes right now and let your guy catch and run with it. And then on the flip side, I think this is a Taron Johnson game. If he plays his best game of the year, I'm telling you, Dallas, you got to do 2 things against this offense right now. You got to cover 88. If you can't cover 88, I don't care who you are. And now I think a lot of teams do it stupidly. Like Philadelphia last week was playing man coverage. They had Darius Slay covering Michael Gallup and Roby covering CeeDee Lamb. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And you gotta change coverage at the snap exotically. You can't just go from cover 2 to cover 3. It's got to be, you got to get Dak confused because right now he is firing on all cylinders.
Dan, thanks very much. Appreciate the time
Dan.
as always. We'll catch up with you next week.
Have a great week, guys.